Welcome back to Roach Syndication. This is Zed. Today I'm going to be talking about Gevo once again. Make sure to drop a like to this video to help this channel grow, subscribe, and leave notifications on. At any point of time, if you feel you're missing out on either of these technical indicators, you'll find a playlist in the description below to tell you a bit more about it and what they mean. I'm going to go through news, technical analysis, what I think about the stock, and future updates in the industry as a whole. Let's jump right into it. So on a 1 weekly perspective, what we get to see here is that the MACD seems to be still going on towards the green phase. You get to see here the willing percent R still around a bit more neutral, and the ADX supports in possibility of a strong trend coming in. Momentum seems to be a little bit choppy, but on the 1 week perspective, it looks more like trading almost sideways with the possibility of a trend forming. If we were to look into the 1 month, 1 day perspective, what we get to see here is that the MACD looks like it's actually curving upwards, trying to test in a positive reversal. Now that is positive news for us. The unbalanced volume seems to be stable. Volumes have been a little bit slow on the 1 day perspective. When it goes in towards your average directional index, it shows that there is a very strong trend that it was coming from. That was basically the massive jump, and then it basically started coming in down. On the willing percent R, the stock is overbought. That is a negative sign for us, and momentum seems to be going sideways. Now, if we were to look into the moving averages, we get to see the stock price is above the 50 SMA, below the 200 SMA, so that kind of cancels each other out. But the 30 EMA looks like it's actually attempting to curve up the 10 SMA, and that is a bearish sign as well. If we were to look into a 1 hour perspective, what we get to see here is that the MACD looks like it's gone positive, and it's attempting to go towards a bit more negative side. Everything else, this is 1 hour perspective, is just basically to tell you the more on a 1 hour scale, maximum to up to 1 day. It looks like it's going to be trading sideways with a little bit of possibility of a red, because the willing percent R is sitting in from overbought to going in towards oversold. Now, if we were to look into the moving average band, what we get to see here is that the stock is trading below the moving average band. The moving average band is expected to trade between 98 cents on the bottom, middle 108, and 12 on the top, but it hasn't been following that for quite a bit, so I wouldn't give it much mind. So let's take a quick look into Fibonacci retracements. We get to see a strong support on the Fibonacci scale at the 82 cents, above that on resistance on the 104. If we were to look into significant supports and resistances, what we get to see here is that there is a significant current support sitting at 91 cents. I'm going to zoom in here for you. Then below that, we're looking at the 89 cents. Below that, we're looking at right here the 87, and then at the 85. Below the 85, we're seeing 83, and then 81, and a very strong one happening here around the 81 mark to the 79 cent mark. Now, if we were to look at significant resistances, one that is right now is around 95 cents. And then a strong one that basically have created more of a multiple bottom one, which is a dangerous situation to be in right now, is the 98 cents one. And then the previous strong support at $1.02. Now, no significant trends that I get to see here right off the bat. So I'm going to skip that, and I'm going to go through the stochastic fast and stochastic slow. You get to see here around the phase around 9th of September all the way to around 15th of September. It was more flat and on the oversold part. So that does look like it was a loading zone. Now, in the terms of the time itself, looks like it's actually might have been moving away from that. Now going on towards the latest news, what we get to see here, this is the last business updates. I did refer to this one here, but basically instead of Gevo continues to seek a targeted capital raise of around 200 million project level equity, using a project financing structure to build up to 3 production facilities. The first expanded production facility or project is expected to be located at Gevo's current production facility. And so how they're doing it basically is instead of raising capital for basically one single entity as Gevo, what they're going to be doing is they're going to have 3 different smaller project-based capital companies, or that would raise capital to support Gevo's projects and contracts for the next 12 months. And basically, the production would be expected at the first project in late 2023, early 2024, and they have around $81 million in cash. So basically, this sets safe that there's no offerings coming up. So that is positive news, although that means the facilities itself is not owned by Gevo, it's owned by a subsidiary of Gevo. Not a very much of a direct impact. Now, currents versus expanded, they're for 206 265,000 gallon fermenters, one purpose built for isobutanol, and then basically Gafford expanded around 500,000 gallons. Distillation building number 1 here, it's going to be switched to two 500,000 gallons fermenters. Distillation building 2, IBA beer well, and I'm talking about here, for instance, in the diagrams, there's a lot more expanded stuff. For instance, combination of heat and power buildings, propagation building, hydrocarbon plant, additional $250,000 250,000 gallons of product storage, and they're employing technicians to reach 48 employees. Currently, they're sitting around 6 management team members, and pre-COVID around 32. All right, so now taking a quick look into the demand. So the demand then across the country here, across the borders. In Canada, basically the biofuel industry is very optimistic about the federal government proposed clean fuel standard, which could potentially create significant new domestic demand for Canadian crops, depending on how the regulations are drawn up. And so basically Canada is going on through a bit more progressive run than what we have here in the States, and so it becomes in more, there is potential for Gevo, for instance, to sell across up to the north to Canada, but it also brings in states like California, for instance, that have been a bit more progressive as well in terms of moving towards biofuel. So that increases the potential of larger market for biofuels for Gevo. Now, Trump administration shocks oil industry with biofuel waiver decision. And so you can read through that, but basically it does not very much affect Gevo in a direct sense, but it decreases perhaps the competition. Clean fuel standards misses the mark on biofuels. Grain farmers on Ontario oppose to land use restrictions and seek transparency on certification criteria. Now this is more of Canadian news, so I'm just basically mentioning what is across the border, just to get an idea on what the global North American market is going towards. More constellation coming in clean fuel standards, says Bivio, and basically that is also on a bit more Canadian news. So nothing significant coming in from the United States in terms of news, but it still is significant quite enough. So coming into how I would think the stock would play, now it is a little bit, I guess, too late in terms of trying to buy in towards the loading zone, but you do expect that it might actually see a little bit more green, perhaps to test around the dollar again, as it's got really close to testing the dollar again, but it's very shaky. You get to see the bottom is around 65 cents in terms of very strong support. So it comes in more if you can trade it between 2-3 days, but it's going to be more sideways in my opinion, and the risk is a little bit too high. But for 2 green tickers going in on red market, that is quite impressive. But it really depends on your risk management and your risk tolerance. But what can happen is it can fall back and try to test the 81 cent back again, and then from their point on, it can actually still try to attempt to recover, or just dip a little bit more and then recover. What do you think about the sticker? Make sure to mention down in the comments below. Share, subscribe, and like. You have a wonderful day.